Lesson 9, Stress Management Techniques. So the importance of including a stress management component to your brain fitness curriculum cannot be underscored here. As I noted in Lesson 2, unconstructive negative thinking, or worrying, plays a role in maintaining chronic stress levels. In Lesson 6, we learned how dehydration, even as low as 1 to 2%, impacts cognition and mood. In Lesson 7, we examine the clinical evidence of how an internal stress, namely excess weight on the body, results in impairments in brain blood flow and volume as a result of chronic inflammation. And finally, in Lesson 8, we discussed how chronic stress elevates chemicals like cortisol and epinephrine, which reduce hippocampal neurogenesis. Therefore, mastering one's thought patterns, dietary habits, and body composition can be instrumental in transforming brain function. In this day and digital age, stress can come in many forms, from long daily commutes to work, to pressures from employers or customers, or from the stress that can occur in nurturing and providing for a family, or even in maintaining a healthy, loving relationship with a spouse. We're also bombarded by a form of stress from the invisible realm of harmful EMFs from our smartphones, computers, and electrical equipment, all of which create electromagnetic interference in the body. The most impactful stress factors related to cognitive aging include hormones, with cortisol being a crucial mediating factor, multi-system dysregulation in the form of inflammation or metabolic dysregulation, reduced neuroplasticity, rumination, intrusive thinking, distraction, repetitive thoughts, and emotional reactivity. So managing these factors can be personalized to your lifestyle, whether it's engaging in a daily practice of meditation, yoga, deep breathing, hypnosis, specific types of exercise targeted to your brain, nutritional support, or managing automatic negative thoughts. So it's best to begin this lesson by defining stress. So what is stress? Stress is a necessary part of our lives and can have both beneficial and negative effects on our system. The stress response is primarily determined by our perception of an event, transition, or problem. So the first step is to identify the extent that your client is experiencing stress symptoms in their body. Physical symptoms of stress include muscle spasms, tension, headaches, fatigue, shortness of breath, dry mouth, elevated heart rate, nail-biting, teeth grinding, jaw pain, increased susceptibility to colds, and insomnia. Mental symptoms of stress include the inability to focus, impaired decision-making, and experiencing brain fog. More emotional symptoms of stress include mood changes such as anxiety, depression, anger, panic attacks, frustration, overwhelm, confusion, impatience, restlessness, helplessness, and defensiveness. And finally, environmental symptoms of stress can include social withdrawal or changes in appetite, sleep, or libido. So these factors reflect that stress can have a significant impact on our physiology, psychology, and behavior. Stressors cause the release of hormones cortisol and epinephrine from the adrenal gland. Well, this is appropriate in an acute sense, for example, if we're in immediate danger, but this can cause significant dysfunction in the body if experienced chronically. For many of your clients with weight issues, managing the stress in your client's life can go a long way towards achieving their goals. If you're unable to attenuate the cortisol release, you're going to have a challenge on your hands. Since cortisol is naturally elevated in the morning and decreases in the evening, you want to stay in synchrony with this cycle by having your clients do morning workouts and having their biggest meals before noon. Cortisol is involved in converting the foods we eat into energy, so you'd be maximizing the benefits of this hormone following this plan. Conversely, in the evenings, you want to be eating less and relaxing. In addition, you're going to want to make sure to go to sleep at a normal hour, preferably by 10, and waking up at a normal hour between 6 and 8 on a consistent basis so you could stay in synchrony with the body's natural cortisol cycle. It would also be wise to refrain from drinking anything caffeinated, particularly after 3, if you want to maintain proper functioning of the adrenal glands. And finally, we want to look at the stressor and see if we can change the perception of the stressor and its impact on our life. Is there another perspective you can take on the situation? Can something positive come out of what may be perceived as a loss or something that is negative? This is where you as a coach or a trained therapist can be instrumental in creating strategies for your client to release the stress and create a new vision for their life. So as I noted in the previous slide, stress can have a multitude of effects on the body, mind, emotions, and behavior, several of which are listed on this slide. In order for you to have a clear understanding on how stress is impacting your client's life, my recommendation would be to incorporate a standardized stress assessment into your evaluation. One assessment that is free and available online is called the Perceived Stress Scale. The first section lists 12 of the most commonly experienced symptoms of stress and asks the individual to rate the frequency of their symptoms on a scale from every day to never. The second section is a perceived stress scale, which lists 10 questions asking the individual about their feelings and thoughts of the perceived stress over the past month. Each question is answered on a 5-point Likert scale from 0 being never to 4 being always. The perceived stress scale can range in score from 0 to 40. Scores ranging from 0 to 13 indicate low stress, 14 to 26 indicates moderate stress, and 27 to 40 indicates elevated stress. As you work with your clients, you can re-administer this assessment to determine the efficacy of your stress management techniques. So now that we have identified what stress is, how it impacts the mind, body, emotions, and behaviors, and have identified a way to assess its impact on your client, we will now discuss the tools you have available to help your client manage their stress. In the next series of slides, I'll be discussing various breath-based meditations and movements that have a strong evidence base in the research literature in support of improving everything from cognitive function, which includes enhancing your brain reserve, to promoting emotional regulation, enhancing physical performance, preserving your physiological function, supporting a connection of the mind to the body, and promoting a deep level of relaxation and self-awareness. Now, I could take each one of these benefits and discuss them at length, but I'm going to touch on a few that I think deserve some acknowledgement. The first is the ability of breath, meditation, and movement to enhance cognitive reserve. The concept of cognitive reserve is very important in brain health. When we are young, we have a certain amount of cognitive reserve or a resilience to neuropathological damage. With advancing age, our ability to have cognitive reserve diminishes due to genetics, the environment, poor diet, and lifestyle habits. Individuals with a higher cognitive reserve, whether this is through having more brain volume per se or having enhanced neural connectivity, have a greater threshold before any clinical issues occur. Simply stated, the more cognitive reserve you have, the less likely you are to have brain issues. The second that I want to expand on is the ability for these techniques to promote a deeper sense of relaxation and self-awareness. Given that we now live in a society of the 24-hour news cycle, social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat, and with innovations in digital technology advancing at an unprecedented pace, it is placing a physical and physiological stress on our mind and body, according to the Pew Research Foundation. Interestingly, this stress may not be due to the use of social media directly, but indirectly from people being exposed to more negative news that heightens their stress level. Given our hyperconnectivity to the outer world, it is now imperative to our health that we learn ways to connect to our inner world so that the nervous system can relax, thereby supporting the body's natural ability to regenerate and be whole. One option to decrease stress is to get a weekly massage or acupuncture, but understandably that can be cost prohibitive to some. So it is important to know what we could do in the comfort of our own homes. This is where the techniques I'm going to share with you come into play, and I hope I can inspire you to do these daily, as well as impart them to your clients. So we'll now delve into 4 different techniques that you can use with your clients to enhance focus and energy while providing a deep sense of relaxation and calm. They include meditation, yoga and yogic breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, and the relaxation response. I've utilized all 4 techniques myself as well as with my clients one-on-one or in a group setting, and it's best when you can help select which one is most appropriate to your client. For example, I enjoy using meditation as a way to clear the mind in a group setting where I can teach a technique which utilizes a basic posture combined with breath work. If I'm working with a client that is very physical and prefers movement, then a yoga practice may be the best place to begin. There are various types of yoga practices, some of which utilize a series of coordinated movements with breath to flow from one pose to the next, which is referred to as vinyasa yoga. The type of yoga done in a heated studio in a class geared towards physical fitness is referred to as power vinyasa flow. Then there's the yoga practice that utilizes more advanced poses for strengthening balance, flexibility, and agility, and is focused on unifying the mind, body, and spirit, and is referred to as dynamic yoga. If I'm working with a client who has issues with anxiety, stress, or headaches, then I will teach them diaphragmatic breathing. This is also known as abdominal breathing or belly breathing. This is the type of breathing that is done by animals in a relaxed environment and is a way of interrupting the fight or flight response. And finally, if I'm working with a client who has a difficult time sitting still or they're fidgety and restless and they need a cue to help them focus, I will teach them the relaxation response, which was created to help activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which helps people to relax. This is done through the use of a word or a phrase to keep the mind from wandering, as well as having a passive attitude. So let's begin with meditation. There's a broad definition of what meditation truly entails, from a series of self-regulation practices that focus on training awareness and attention in order to bring mental processes under control, to a stylized mental technique that brings a heightened sense of alertness, awareness, and bliss, to the practice of deep reflection and contemplation, or a state of altered consciousness. Whichever definition resonates with you, it is clear that meditation has been shown to have profound effects on the body, as noted in the evidence-based research originating back to 1931. With over 4,000 articles published in the National Library of Medicine database from the National Institutes of Health. Neuroimaging studies on meditators have shown a different type of morphometry in the multiple brain regions as compared to non-meditators, meaning that there is an increased cortical thickness and gray matter volume. There's a large body of research on the efficacy of mindfulness-based meditations to reduce symptoms associated with psychiatric disorders, including anxiety, depression, substance abuse, eating disorders, and chronic pain, in addition to improving well-being and quality of life. Mindfulness meditation involves awareness of the present moment experience with a compassionate, non-judgmental stance. It changes the perception of the individual, allowing one's thoughts and feelings to be recognized within a broader field of awareness. Next, we will discuss the second technique, yoga. Yoga is one of the many wonderful alternatives to exercise that has tremendous benefits to the body and mind. Yoga is comprised of various domains of practice, which includes postures, regulated breathing, meditation, among other things, to enhance the health and well-being, while simultaneously improving gray matter volume and increasing cortical thickness in the brain. The benefits of yoga are numerous, as it can serve to improve flexibility, balance, and coordination, muscle strength and tone, respiration, as breath work is a part of every yoga practice, energy and vitality through the movement of life force, improved circulatory health, support for connective tissue, lymphatic drainage, reduction of cortisol production from the adrenals, and one of the most important health benefits, an enhanced sleep. Our third technique is diaphragmatic breathing. Diaphragmatic breathing is a form of breath work that allows for the expansion of the lungs and a greater oxygenation of the system. It's also referred to as lower body breathing and is the natural form of breathing that we all did when we were children. Unfortunately, we often grow out of this natural state of breathing and create a habit of upper body breathing or chest breathing, which keeps us in a state of hypervigilance or fight or flight. In essence, diaphragmatic breathing is a discipline that reminds our body how to breathe in a healthy way, supporting the parasympathetic nervous system, which allows us to stay calm and relaxed. This will prevent us from falling back into the common practice of engaging in shallow breathing, which utilizes the top part of the lungs. So the average person takes between 12 to 20 breaths per minute. Shallow breathing, or chest breathing, occurs when you take more than this number of breaths in a minute. It often involves drawing air into the chest area using the intercostal muscles rather than through the lungs using the diaphragm. Individuals with anxiety are often shallow breathers, and this can lead to symptoms including lightheadedness, rapid heart rate, fatigue, and feeling faint. So to start diaphragmatic breathing, you place one hand on the belly while the other hand rests on the chest. It involves a slow and deep inhalation through the nose, usually for a count of 10, until the abdomen or the belly is full. This is followed by a slow exhalation for a similar count. It may be repeated 5 to 10 times. One easy way to learn how to do this form of breathing is to buy a little yoga pillow and place it on your diaphragm. You'll want to practice expanding the diaphragm so that the pillow rises and falls. This will teach you how to engage your calming parasympathetic system. Diaphragmatic breathing has numerous benefits, including lowering blood sugar and blood pressure, stimulates the release of the feel-good neurotransmitter serotonin, as well as growth hormone. It supports the removal of free radicals. It improves mental focus and clarity. It improves the quality of sleep, and most importantly, reduces cortisol and other stress hormones. If you have difficulty sleeping due to stress, practice diaphragmatic breathing every night, just as if it were an exercise. You might just be surprised at how quickly you're able to fall asleep. And last, but certainly not least, is the fourth technique, called the relaxation response. This is a form of meditation that has been very well received by many of my clients. It's a technique described in the book Relaxation Response, written by Harvard-trained physician Herbert Benson back in 1975, a pioneer in studying the physiological changes that occur during meditation techniques since 1968. He has published over 55 articles on how the relaxation response has positive impacts on health, including reducing blood pressure, stress management in the workplace, promoting well-being, reducing PMS symptoms, reducing headaches and migraines, changes in body temperature, its impact on insomnia, and its use as a tool to reduce anxiety prior to surgery, just to name a few. The relaxation response uses a mental cue, such as the word Om or One, as a soothing sound that has no meaning or association in order to keep the individual focused, thus avoiding the stimulation of unnecessary thoughts. It is meant to be done with a passive attitude, training the body into a state of relaxation. As you can see by the directions listed on the slide, it is easy to follow and is a wonderful way to engage people in getting comfortable with meditation and learning how to sit still, which for some is easier said than done. I wanted to close this lesson with a few final recommendations on ways in which we can reduce stress levels in our bodies through nutrients in support of us living a longer, healthier, more vibrant life. As a former director of nutrition and nutraceuticals, I gained considerable experience learning about herbal remedies that have a powerful impact on reducing stress in the body. I observed through objective testing using brain imaging technologies, including quantitative EEG, as well as through the subjective verbal feedback of clients that I worked with. Through our research and work in the clinical setting, I gained an appreciation on the use of adaptogenic herbs to attenuate stress in the body, and I wanted to share 3 of them with you. The first is Rhodiola rosea, which is known as an adaptogenic plant that grows in the cold mountainous regions of the world, including the Arctic, Iceland, Russia, Scandinavia, and the Alps. Since this plant has adapted to conditions of high altitude and low oxygen, it contains protective compounds that have beneficial effects in the body. Extracts from this plant have been used to enhance physical and mental performance, fight fatigue, and support a positive mood. Adaptogens increase the availability of energy during the day, reduce feelings of stress, enhance endurance, and promote a restful sleep. The second is ashwagandha, a shrub found in India, Nepal, and Pakistan that is commonly used for its anti-stress properties. Ashwagandha is an adaptogen, meaning it has the properties that enable the body to better handle stress, anxiety, and fatigue. It helps to rejuvenate and energize the nervous system in addition to increasing physical endurance. And finally, you can use Panax ginseng, a plant with fleshy roots that grows in the northern hemisphere of Eastern Asia, Korea, and Russia, typically in cooler climates, and is used to support energy and focus. If your client is under significant stress, in addition to using these adaptogens, you will want to include nutrients discussed in Lesson 4, including a foundational multivitamin, spirulina, vitamins B, C, and D, as well as magnesium. We will discuss some additional nutrients that can be used with your client in Lesson 10.